I'm ready!
Look, for one last time, upon the fall of Solium, dear reader. Hear me for one last time. For soon, the few remaining stars shall fade away, leaving you stranded there for your remaining days, in that forsaken land where you deserve to be. The rabble that you roused here in the Commonwealth shall be put down. The exiles whom you liberated, all shall fall in line. But first, let us get on with this last liberation rite. You face none other than yourselves. Each so unlike the glorious Nightwings of yore. 'Tis a shame that one of you shall soon be free, for you deserve each other.
The pyres burn and each triumvirate is present and prepared. But before the lone minstrel can concur as per the custom... Not another word! The demon Orlek slowly raises his clawed fingers to his mask. The false Nightwings have arrived at last. Long have I waited this, my freedom once stolen from me, and I was cheated of it, here upon this mountaintop. You may now attempt to take it from me once more. He stands there for a moment silent, then Orlek dons his mask and stands prepared. May these damn rites cease forever for the misery which they cause. Nightwings, we shall not meet again after tonight, for the cycle of rites is all but ended. Thus, I would have your decision. On whose behalf shall you conduct this final liberation rite? To whom to anoint? Or else the exile Orlek shall be returned. Godspeed, reader. You know what is at stake better than I. I have the utmost faith in you to make the best decision and conduct the rite with glory. Nightwings! The stars remaining glow dim. Your decision, please. Tizo. Bertrude. Volfred. Your fellow exiles, your companions, your friends. Together you have come thus far, but now the rites conspire to tear your group apart, disrupt your plan. But with a glance, you reassure your fellow exiles you know what to do.
One final opportunity for salvation. Too bad for the rest of you.
He has to go. He has to go for the plan to succeed, doesn't he? It can't be Tizo. But he says he doesn't want to go back.
Bertrude.
We have no fondness for the Commonwealth. Though should we return onto that realm, we shall endeavor to transform it in accordance to our plan.
Who shall lend her support?
Sweet!
Volfred.
Surely, Julie, my girl. Besides, we stand against Ulrich. It is fitting that I too should confront him myself.
Fine.
Those are to me my adversaries, then. And who is this, I wonder? Who will assert her over there well to the group? You sent Orlek searching for you, almost reaching out to you. You, the shadow of the false Nightwings. You are nothing to me, but you You who would relinquish your own liberty for the sake for them? Strange. It is fitting, then, that I should face one such as you. Orlek stands ready, signaling his two allies to do the same. By the light of the dawn, the cycle of the rites shall cease. Let's see if we finish this ordeal before that time. The skies above begin to shudder. The final liberation rite is about to commence. Tarkwick! Aye, I am prepared, Celeste. Then let our song this even shake the stars even themselves. Aye, Celeste. Let us make sure of it. I trod Birchshoe because Volfred said he wanted to stay. Teasel? Teasel fumbles with his mask. Sweetheart? It's good to see you. He reaches for his mask in turn. How is the horn mended? Sweetheart! Indicates his horn had not bothered him for a long time thanks to Orlek for it. Good. Full recovery then. But it is unfortunate to see you standing there with them, Tizo. Come with us, no questions asked. The proposition catches Tizo off guard. Squirrel? He won't abandon us. He's pleading with Orlek to stand down, to listen, not to give in to anger. Orlek shakes his head. He puts his mask back on. This is something I must do, little one. Dons his mask and chirps nothing more.
Begin. The final chance at liberation for the age. You were the remnants once again. I could not simply stand by and do nothing, Orlek. Yes, that is what you did. When we last stood together on that blasted mountain, I failed, you simply stood. Orlek, what shall it take you to convince I took no part of your betrayal? He seems to consider the question, but only for a moment. Give me my damn freedom, let me prevail here and now. Did you promise to uphold our plan? To bring about a better commonwealth? No, I make no promises. I owe you nothing. Then I'm sorry, Orlek. My love for country comes before all else. More than your freedom and our friendship is at stake. Your love be damned, Volfred. Let us stand adversaries then. Fuck! Ah! Bye 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 zip! Zip! Right, no stamina! Fuck you! Skies rain ash, and soon your power will mingle with them. Just then the skies begin to rain fire. Final throws a circle of divide, the ending of an age. This is... What?! Ah! All three Nightwings, poof.
Bye! Ah!
Simply monstrous. From burning flame to...
Fuck! All of you, you shall rot here. You shall rot here. All of these mere, you false Nightwings, deny me my rightful liberty. You who deny liberty of all the triumphants you face and vanquish under the guise of the treasures of those blasted scribes. Come, let us continue this glorious affair.
How he has changed, that Orlek. Grown old and bitter all these many years. Such wherewithal.
So the false Nightwings bare their fangs at last. But that can't be your finest effort. You think you deserve your freedom more than I? Then fight for it, damn you!
No sign of the true Nightwings at this time.
Orlok stands breathing heavy, looks back on a small lick of flame that is his smoldering pyre, before turning his attention on your triumph rocket.
Quite foul for the Nightwings. There it is.
I only need one more.
Now go.
Fuck! Ow. Fuck! Gertrude, get it! Fuck!
Someone grasp the orb. And there it is, at last. The Nightwings proved their worth. Rather convincingly, I must admit.
Fuck you, Orlok!
Thus ends the liberation rite. And thus, the scribes have chosen
Foreseeable outcome, the one we desired. You look upon Gertrude. From what you expect shall be your last time you see each other. Any moment now, the Shimmer Pole shall engulf her. Any moment she will return to glory and join Voidfor's age in the Commonwealth to help achieve their plan. Any moment the cycle of right shall end until at least the dawn of a new age. Any moment now.
And thus, the scribes have chosen. And thus, the scribes have chosen. And thus, the scribes have chosen. No. Nightwings. Reader, what have you done?
A fortunate result, now coupled with an auspicious turn. Each prior time upon this fall of Solomon, the Shimmer Pool was opened following the liberation rite, taken in which exile prevailed. But now all is still. The light above the pool above has all but died. You sense a growing fear that you are already too late, that the Shimmer Pool shall not reveal itself again. Orlok approaches, his head bowed. The 8 scribes saved their greatest treachery for last. Then something catches his notice. Wait. A sudden rush of starlight cascades through the stillness of the summit. The Shimmer Pool appeared again, different somehow but open. Gertrude looked upon it. It does not engulf her, or at least not yet. It seems I was mistaken then. The 8 scribes. This is not their greatest treachery, it is their greatest jest. The Shimmer Pool is flung wide open. It seems all are worthy now of freedom. Orlok strides towards the Shimmer Pool, but halt, Orlok! Halt, Orlok! Orlok grunts at the lone minstrel, almost in surprise. The Shimmer Pool has lost most of its strength. You step inside, you are surely drowned. Of that I can assure you. He laughs to himself at this. Then we have all been cheated. No. The Shimmer Pool is revealed, and one of you may still return as planned. But as for who returns, someone shall have to choose. Ere the last light of the scars is extinguished, the rites cease to be. This is the final trial of the scribes. The final trial of the scribes. Then our confrontation, the liberation light. It was all meaningless? No. The victor of the confrontation is the one to make the choice. Among those closest to the scribe, either anointed or she anointed them. Then we may still return. Perhaps reading one may lead this place instead. Hi. It shall either be you, the reader, or it shall be either or Gertrude. Please make your decision quickly, lest it shall be forfeit. I do not know how much longer the light of the stars shall offer you this gift. We mislike having to rush unnecessarily, and yet we are here decided in this. We believe it ought to be the reading one, which shall go forth from this place. Virtue. Very well. Oui, madame. The choice Virtue made, or rather the choice she gave, it is yours to make instead. This choice may keep bouncing back and forth like this absurd. It may, until such a time as you are willing to accept the burden and the outcome of the choice. This is the trial, and I fear there is little time remaining now. Reader, if you and your commands are too cordial to accept that freedom, either one of you, then I shall gladly take it. Freedom ought to be more one for trifle to exchange. Reader, what is your will? If you want me to go, I'll go. Your mind is made up. You have chosen to be free yourself. I see, and I understand. Then it is done. Looks at you one last time, her heart filled with unspoken understanding. You turn to the lone minstrel for an instant, but for an instant later, he is gone, and everyone, all you feel is the coldness rush of water coursing around you. Thanks, Virtue.
Godspeed, reader. By the scribes. No stars remain aloft. The cycle of the rites. It is finished.
Bertrand, if you want me to go, I'll go.
What shall become of it? What shall become of us?
Literacy for all!
Nightwings. The opportunity to gain your freedom from the downside. Was it not enough?
That night, an exiled reader returned to the Commonwealth. She was to be the last, the stars had faded, and the cycle of the rites had run its course. She found the Commonwealth in great upheaval. Spurred by the efforts of the 6 liberated exiles, Wolfred Sandalwood's revolutionary plan had incited the masses. These exiles and the starless sky portended the return of the scribes. The people surged into the streets, shoulder to shoulder. Led by the 6 exiles, their voice shook the heavens. The leadership of the Commonwealth panicked. No blood was shed that night, and by dawn it was over. The leaders of the Commonwealth had cast themselves back into exile, or joined this new cause. Thus, in its 838th year, the Commonwealth had fallen. The new Sadhurian Union declared its sovereignty in the next year. Among the changes its elected leaders ushered in, they vowed never to cast their people into exile, and they abolished the old Commonwealth decree forbidding literacy. Today we remember all of this. We remember the exiles of Downside, whose deeds led to the dawning of our age, whether they returned or not. Do I get to read about them? Holy shit. After the cycle of the rites ceased turning, the lone minstrel bade the remaining Nightwings take the Black Wagon and seek their fortunes elsewhere in the downside. Their parting was heartfelt but brief. He would remain there at the summit of Mount Audial with Celeste, where the two of them would chronicle the final outcome of the cycle. Neither Tarquic nor Celeste were ever seen again. We know all this now through song attributed to them. Some claim these songs originated in taverns of Solarian Union, and merely are imbued with the weight of folklore. However, exiles liberated from the downside collaborated each other's claims at having met this duo and presided over the liberation rites. Other folktales suggest these ministers were heralds of the scribes. Having fulfilled their obligations, they departed the world we know and rejoined their patrons. One of their famous songs describes another simple outcome, that the two gave up their duties to the rites in favor of a life that they could share together. In any case, they are likely to remain the subject of such verses and song, for it is they who watched over our rights and ushered in our times. After the Shimmer Pool closed for what would be the last time, Orlick looked around him in the flickering light of the Nightwing's still burning pyre. He then returned to the Fall Solomon, looked up toward the black starlit sky. He cursed the 8 scribes, then one after the other. After that, he strode forward toward the water, coursing from the side of Mount Audiel, and while hesitating, cast himself down. Orlick's body was never recovered. The drop from Mount Audiel does not appear survivable, though Orlick did survive it once. The time, however, he was filled with fury. Such was the betrayal he suffered when his fellow exile claimed his rightful freedom. This time, Orlick was filled with nothingness, and chose to leave the downside in the one way he still knew he could. The other Nightwings, who were witness to this, never forgot what they saw. Once it was clear to Ignarius that the rites were drawing to a close, he knew it was time for him and the Templars to call it quits. But first, he and the Templars decided to celebrate, and that they did, for many nights. The revelry did eventually subside. The exiles parted amicably, and they went their separate ways. He roamed the downside then, searching for some meaning in life, sometimes taking odd jobs, requiring his brute strength. He never remained alone for long, and he took on many lovers in his time. However, he sometimes thought about the one he called Curlyhorns, and what became of her. Though his glory days as the most powerful conductor of the rites had long passed, he always enjoyed the fearsome reputation he cultivated at that time. When Manly Thunderstaff realized the rites had ended, that he no longer could return to the Commonwealth through this ancient means, he was outraged. He cursed the scribes, spewing forth such a slew of blasphemy as it was very unbecoming of one of his high status and bearing. When at last he calmed himself, he focused all his energies on attempting to find another means of homecoming. He maintained regular contact with his wealthy family on the other side via messenger imp, and used his vast resources to explore other means of escape. He tried using an elaborate pulley system. He attempted to retrofit a flying black wagon with a superior propulsion. He tried an imp raft, a hot air balloon, even prayer. Nothing worked. There was only way to escape the downside, and now it was gone. Tinderstuff bankrupted his family in these vain attempts. At last, such was his shame that he retreated to the teeming wood of Black Basin to Cinderroot. There, he yet wallows, complaining to his comrades of the chastity who still put up with him, either about his own misfortune or the latest news from the other side. Through exile, Tamitha Tane was motivated by a single goal, to return to the Commonwealth and exact vengeance on her ancient enemies. When she realized the rites had ended, and that she would never see her mountain home again, she nonetheless remained determined to aid her people however possible. She gathered certain information pertaining to the intentions of the Nightwings, who had formed a pact to regroup on the other side after liberation. Other such reports exposed certain weaknesses in the Commonwealth defenses and revealed that the High Remnants the opportunities for a risky but potential impactful strike. As Tamitha could not participate in the assault, she learned what happened well after the outcome. On the night known as the Scribe's Return, the Commonwealth had fallen. The Nightwing's remnants thus prevailed, at last, without even having to fight. Soon after the fall of the Commonwealth, Tamitha learned her blood sister, Pamitha, was an accessory to the successful outcome. Tamitha was very skeptical of this, but as similar reports kept mounting, she accepted the prevailing opinion, however begrudgingly. Once a messenger imp arrived bearing some sort of message, seeming from Pamitha. However, Tamitha turned it away. She would not give an impulse to forgive. Knowing that conflict on the other side had ended, Tamitha retreated to the crags of Black Basin and grew ever more distant. Though those closest to her surmised that her inability to reconcile with her blood sister was at the heart of this, though for her part, Tamitha never once admitted such weakness. Barker Ashpaw never had much interest in returning to the Commonwealth, for he always found its bylaws to be stifling, so when the rites ended, he did not care, at first. He soon grew very bored. The rites had given him life, a certain sense of structure he had always needed. He missed the raw anticipation of it all. He decided to continue conducting rites for the thrill of it. He bent some of the rules and replaced some of the objects, but it was close enough. His packmates, the descendants, proved more than happy to participate, and thus they ran against each other back in Ymir Valley. Gradually, other exiles familiar with the rites, as well as those who had not heard of it at all, started to take interest. They ended giving Parker Ashpaw some healthy competition. His old feud with Rookie Greenhill ceased meaning anything to him, and he forgot all about it amid his new pursuits. Ultimately, even Barker Ashpaw, who led such a directionless existence to that point, found something of a calling through the rites. Whether he took the rites less seriously than other exiles of his time, or more, was oft debated by those who watched him work. All his life, Sir Deluge had fled from one danger only to find himself facing another. He had escaped the war-torn waters of Sea Dominion. He had escaped the blood border of the Commonwealth. Now he had escaped the rites. After rites ended, many exiles wrapped up in the ancient tests were crestfallen, as their last chance to return to their home vanished, along with the stars above. But Deluge did not mind, for this outcome meant, at last, there was no burden of responsibility weighing on him. While most of his exiles of the Pyre hearts yet longed for the waters of the Sea Dominion, driven as ever impulse towards conflict, Deluge settled down. With him remained one of his companions, Lady Seagrass, who had taken a liking to him for some reason. Reportedly, they disappeared into the waters of Wormgrove, which they began to explain the significant increase in worm population observed in the vicinity. As the cycle of the rites drew to a close, it was evident that the chance at freedom from the downside had forever slipped from Dalbert and Almir Oldheart's grasp. Thus, they and the exiles of the Fate returned to Ymir Valley. There they struggled to get by, as exiles of the downside tend to do. Sometime after the rites had ended, Oldhearts at last heard the news the Commonwealth had fallen. This was well after the fact, of course, but it brought old Dalbert great joy. Despite his forthright manner, he had no love for the nation that cast him down along with his son. Dalbert Oldheart passed peacefully in his sleep before the next moon. In his final days, he implored his son to undertake a pilgrimage to the scribes. Almir never shared his father's view of the scribes, but respected Dalbert's wishes, and so after a period of mourning, Almir began a new journey. Not a day went by that Almir Oldheart did not think about his father, give thanks to him, and speak to him at the morning and at night. Would the stars yet shone, for surely Dalbert's would be there among them, smiling down at his son and watching over him and his kin. After the cycle of rites ceased, which old Mild returned to Flagging Hands region, where she sealed herself within the pit of Milith. There, even her fellow exiles of the Withdrawn allegedly grew unnerved after a time and left her to her vile work. Sometime later, the pit of Milith erupted into flames so intense that the conflagration that could be seen all the way in Ymir Valley. Arson was suspected, though the cause was never verified, and many bog dwellers in the regions were forced to flee. A tempest blowing from the north finally quenched the flames. When at last the ash had settled, the grounds had cooled, and the site of the fire was scarred beyond recognition. No trace of witch Almahid was found. As the contents of Pit Milith, which notably included a profane object thought to be the rooms of Yauch, all of it was gone as well. Back in Salarian Union, Mildy repeated threats of the return of the Yauchs were thoroughly investigated, and no credence was found to any of her claims. Hi, asshole! After the final liberation rite, Lendo refused to believe the rites had truly ended. He would sit through the night after consecutive night, staring into the blackness of sky, awaiting any kind of sign that he may get another chance at freedom. No sign ever came. His fellow accusers started to express concern for him. Survival had become a top priority once liberty had slipped from their grasp. But Lendo dismissed them as weak fools. He insisted, rather forcefully, that any evening now, the stars would shine for him again, and mark the way towards his inevitable freedom. He was of course mistaken. The others in the Triumvirate were left with little choice but to abandon them. After that, the exile known as Lendo the Lie was never seen again. However, there has been sightings of a bedraggled demon who wanders the downside and bears Lendo's cruel countenance, suggesting he yet lives. Once the rites have ended, the imp Tizo had a job to do. Quite unlike most of his exiles trapped forever in the downside. The little minstrel asked that he watch over the black wagon, which the Nightwings had used extensively for travel and for shelter throughout their quest. Tizo obliged, for he knew the wagon, as well as its inhabitants, perhaps better than anyone. What became the wagon exactly was never verified, as evidence of Tizo's thorough work. After that, he liked to while away his days with any of his friends, or else with fellow imps. Sandalwood sometimes would call for his assistance. Tizo was always happy to oblige. The two would often reminisce about their times with the lone minstrel. Tizo often missed his interactions with the leader of the Nightwings. They had quickly built quite a rapport back in the downside. Indeed, Tizo would often express wistful gratitude for all his time with the Nightwings, and their many adventures throughout the land that was always his home. Other than that, Tizo would sometimes help interpret for messenger imps, relaying any news, and from here from the Saturn Union. Despite having gained significant celebrity abroad, he would not let go of his head. And he would go fishing in the Sea of Solace at every chance he got. He's happy! When the ride's drawn to a close, Slugmarket's revenues fell precipitously, and Falcon Run was forced to liquidate his assets and close up shop. Yet, as is sometimes the case with those of an I can't say that word, leaning, this time of hardship led to an epiphany, or at least some change of fortune. One day, Falcon Ron had a run-in with a messenger and bearing news from the other side. Ron gave it one of his remaining trinkets, which could not be sold. The following week, the messenger imp returned to him, bearing a tidy sum of wealth in newly minted coinage from the Saharan Union. Falcon Ron cut a long-term deal with the messenger imp then and there. Though his trade remained a gray area from a legal standpoint in the Salarian Union, the newfound fame of the downside caused Falcon Ron's goods to explode in popularity. He later signed an elaborate agreement with Big Birchwood and found a distribution partner on the other side through Rookie Greentail, whose business had expanded. Especially in the Salarian Union, Falcon Ron's goods are still known for their superior quality, though he assumes no liability for any side effects. Several exiles in the Nightwings cared more for the plan of Sandalwoods than to return home from the downside. The crone called Big Birchwood was a prime example. She found a suitable environment to live within the dismal region of Flagging Hands. There she built up a thriving place of business known to many exiles in the land. With the rites having ended, she returned to her preoccupations, working away almost as though nothing had happened. When one gets to be more than 400 years of age, perhaps even monumental events such as the culmination of rites or the collapse of the Commonwealth are seen as trifling matters. Much of her efforts were doubtless due to the influence of Sandalwood, someone who she admired now for decades. She loves him! We know she loves him! Right, Leomar? Leomar's like, what? He had made clear that he could not requite her feelings for him, but what could have been a hurtful dismissal only led to a deeper understanding between them. I'm glad she accepted it. Like, she got friend-zoned, but she's like, I understand that you can't change your feelings. It's cool. We're cool. She's 400 years old. She's got to know better by now. By and large, Birchwood focused on her work. Whether casting small enchantments or imbuing talismans, the work brought her a sense of purpose, she would say. In the Commonwealth, such services were strictly forbidden, but in the downside, there was a real need for simple luxuries, which the competing slug market could not always provide. Thus did Big Birchwood continue to live up to her name, and the tales of her days with the Nightwings made her that much more the living legend. When the cycle of rites ceased turning, Volfred Sandalwood turned toward the starless sky, closed his eyes, and prayed. It was all he could do at this stage of his plan. He aspired to assemble with liberated exiles representing each of the largest ethnic groups composing the population of the Commonwealth. They would stand together as a vision of the Eight Scribes' return, inspiring the masses to embrace an older set of values from before the Commonwealth had tightened its grip. With the rites ending sooner than expected, this ideal scenario became impossible. Sandalwood's own freedom, for instance, was now forfeit, yet the plan did have contingencies. Fortunately, most of those contingencies did not prove necessary. Word reached him on the night of the scribe's return. His fellow liberated Nightwings stood together and their voices echoed through the streets. These former exiles, who ought to have disappeared into the ranks of the Commonwealth's own leadership, now stood united with its people, who poured from their homes in solidarity. It was imperative to Sandalwood that this standing against the Commonwealth be peaceful in nature. An overwhelming show of popular support would be more than enough. Ensuring that was his priority, and in the end, the result was self-evident. The plan's goal had been achieved. Sandalwood kept busy after that, as much as possible, providing counsel from afar to those who would be at the upfront of the birth of the Salarian Union. Of course, being stranded in downside meant there was only so much he could do. Resting assured that the future of the nation was in capable hands, he turned his attention to the remaining exiles of the downside. They might never return to the new nation, but at least they could experience its triumphants and its struggles in vicarious ways, so he took to his own work, writing and printing. The literacy began to spread through the Salarian Union, so too did the exiles of downside take to it. For his part, Sandalwood helped to teach as many as he could. More than that, he provided material to read, a semi-annual report about latest events, both in the Salarian Union and the downside. This periodical gave many exiles something to look forward to. One of his allies in all this was Tizo, whom he traveled with all across the downside. Sandalwood often cited Tizo as a wellspring of his own enthusiasm for a brighter future, such as the creature spirit. He enjoyed exchanging letters with the reader of the Nightwings, who kept him well abreast of how their other comrades in the fledgling nation fared. As Volfred Sandalwood gained more fame throughout the land for his sacrifice and his contributions, it is said he reigned steadfast about two things. First, that the cause of itself ought to remain in focus. Freedom that the people had achieved. It was a gift to be cherished, a set of values that needed to be nurtured. The second point he made was that he himself had little to do with the outcome. He would often praise the exiles of the Nightwings who stood with him, each in turn by name. He never forgot any of them. One day, to commemorate his birthday, the people of Salarian Union unveiled a monument depicting him and the Nightwings as imagined in their prime. While Sandalwood did not learn of it till much later, it was said he was moved to tears then by the gesture. It was since ensured that those of us with memories more fallible than Sandalwood's likewise remember the achievements of his fellow former exiles and their cause. Wow. Alright, let's get with, he was the first. After his liberation, Edwin was instrumental in the events leading to the fall of the Commonwealth, and was vital to the outcome of the plan. The peaceful outcome of the scribe's return was attributed to several key factors. One of them was the underlying ambition of the plan itself. Another was Edwin's visibility among the people in the streets. Identified to be a liberated exile, he was believed to be Athenian reborn. More importantly, however, was that one of the winged harps of the high-wing ramblings accompanying him. She was later identified as Faliki Sag. Oh, she was a harp! I didn't know that! Their bond was symbolic of what was at stake that night, and proved vital to the peace that followed. In all his days as a leader of the Salarian Union, Edwin oft confided in his friend Jode Arliel. Despite her intense manner, there was no one whom he trusted more in times when circumspection was required. Edwin would often think back about the vow he made at the beginning of his quest for freedom. Although he cherished all his friendships he made, he pledged to Jode Ariel, Rookie Greentail, and the reader of the Nightwings they might all be free again together. His promise had come to pass. Though he always knew that this was not his own doing, he was always grateful to the other three, his closest friends. While the others stood with the Nightwings, were not all able to remain in contact thus. Edwin thought of each of them often, and so in turn did they oft think of him. After the cycle of rice ceased turning, records of what happened to the Black Wagon of Nightwings became inconclusive and contradictory. Some suggest that the exiles of the Nightwings who remained in the downside continued to make use of the Black Wagon as their place of shelter and their means of travel. However, there is no record of what happened to the wagon's contents, such as the Book of Rites or the Beyonder Crystal, said to be haunted by the apparition Sandra the Unseeing. One possibility is that the lone minstrel took his leave. He took the Beyonder Crystal with him, for he was thus obliged. By this line of reasoning, however, the Black Wagon itself should have been taken also. Others remained skeptical that the Beyonder Crystal ever existed, or rather that the visions that it granted were anything other than the results of an active imagination or a fever dream. The bog dwellers of the Southern Bog offer still another explanation, for they are familiar with binding enchantments. If there existed such an object in which the Sisters of the Arch had been expelled for more than 800 years, then the enchantment could have expired along with the light of the stars. What this would have meant for Sandra and the Beyonders is difficult to say for certain, other than it may meant they were finally released. Nevertheless, the fate of Sandra and Beyonder Crystal remains unknown. Yet those exiles of the Nightlings who claimed to see the apparition all spoke of her with degrees of reverence or perhaps a little fear. Can you believe this, reader? Honestly! Sandra has appeared before you, as well as you can see. They are so far from the mark with all this nonsense, I won't to laugh. In fact, here goes. She laughs. She is referring to the account of her. You said she does not care for it. Well, let them gossip all they like. I merely wish they would mention you at least in passing, when next they are at it. Though they shall never know even the half of it, shall they? Seems irritated by the incomplete account of what happened to her. Humor her. You indicate to Sandra that the real truth of what happened between you would perhaps make too lavish a tale to be told in such format. She makes a bemused sound at this. Perhaps that story ought to get out then. To think that they would go to all the trouble to make literacy accepted once again, only to print such drivel. Anyway, let us keep going, lovely reader. We know the truth of it. That's what matters. She fades into the Beyonder Crystal for now. You tuck it away safe. I love you. You're my friend. After her liberation, Jode Ariel soon became an icon of the movement that led to the collapse of the Commonwealth and soon the rise of the Sararian Union. Her horns and stern countenance inspired the people to believe that she was Solomon Mur reborn. She became a great if reluctant leader. In the uncertain times that followed, Jode Ariel's seasoned expertise often came into play, both in matters of security and of state. For instance, she conscripted and trained a team of volunteers in public safety. The community did not know what to make of such a cordial bunch at first, but soon came to value their service. They have stood for people ever since, and we celebrate their founding day each year. She remained close with Hedwyn all through this experience. They supported each other through their struggles many, many times. She kept an eye on Faye, who nonetheless demonstrated a surprising knack to get by on her own, though Jode Ariel was always willing to provide assistance just in case. She continued training on her own. Her regiment grew stricter each passing year. There were those who sought to train with her, and sometimes she obliged. There remained one other constant in her life. She would always remember her days among the Nightwings, with fondness for the most part. After Rookie Greentail earned back his freedom, he returned to a lavish welcome ceremony in the Commonwealth, as was the tendency for liberated exiles. It was everything he could hope for, and soon he was well off, surrounded by luxury and choosing between various exciting opportunities. However, he must have given in to his better judgment, as he did end up siding with Volfred's revolutionary forces as he promised. On the night of the scribe's return, Greentail was there with others, inspiring masses. He never looked prouder, the very image of Yormir Many-Mane himself. When dawn finally came, it was clear the Commonwealth that everybody knew would be more. He realized new opportunities awaited. He began a quite lucrative career for himself, manufacturing and selling replica merchandise inspired by Downside. His main struggle was to meet demand. An aspect of his conscience cautioned him against making light of such a thing, but the money was too good, and soon his family was well off, as he always said. One of his orders of business was to seek out one of his old companions, Pamitha Ten, to whom he took a liking during their quest for freedom. They bonded further over love of drink and supported one another through uncertain times that laid in store. He also kept in touch with Gilman, ever the perfect practice partner. They would train together, taking care to stay tip-top shape as much as possible throughout the years. Greentail always did his best to keep in touch with many of his friends. He knew that he owed his fortunes to them. He made a special point of staying close with the group of friends he came to know so well during his time with the Nightwings, wherever they were. They shared a special understanding that even put Greentail at a loss for words sometimes. When the worm Sir Gilman returned to the Commonwealth, he believed he had regained something more important than his freedom, his honor. Gilman relinquished his knighthood and declined an opportunity to serve as captain on the Blood Border. He was not interested in fighting any longer. Yet, as it's sometimes the case with those such as he, a circumstance soon came about in which there came a need for him to once again make use of his military training. Thankfully, however, the scribe's return ended peacefully. Gilman was on edge throughout the night, expecting violence to erupt at any moment, but that moment never came. When the matter was put to rest, Gilman truly knew his time as a knight had ended. He declared to all those in earshot that he would never fight again, unless of course there arose some extraordinary set of circumstance, again requiring him to fight, but he certainly hoped not. He still trained regularly, just in case, especially with his fleet-footed friend Rookie Greentail. He was always grateful for the counsel of the reader, and would regale her over and over about the time they squashed the spawn of unphantomed Pyres. By that point, he had long forgotten his days under the leadership of Sir Deluge, his former commander. Breaking free of his abusive leadership was his first step toward gaining a bit of self-respect. Gilman never did return to his homeland of the Sea Dominion, and was content to lead a monastic life on a small residence in the hills. It was just high enough to keep him striving to conquer his fear of heights. Other than that, an intense daily training regimen and the occasional visit from an old companion was more than enough to keep him optimistic and engaged. He knew, by then, the honor was not something to be worn, but a contract with oneself, to be renewed each day. The Commonwealth had never provided a sense of home for the one they called Faye the Fair, so she was surprised on her return she was treated so well. She felt uneasy about it. Besides, she knew that she would do her best to fulfill the pledge she made to her friends. Even she could not have expected the impact she would have on the events followed that gave the rise to the Saurian Union. Despite not fitting the image of any of the 8 scribes, Faye nonetheless stood out alongside the others, amidst the teeming masses on the night of the scribe return. She spoke of the scribe with such conviction and sincerity that the crowd was very moved. After the fall of the Commonwealth, there was renewed interest in the legend of the 8 scribes, and new interpretations of their histories and teachings. Faye found herself at the attention of all this. Her way of speaking continued to compel a growing audience. She swayed people with her astralist beliefs. Soon the 8th word, which had lost favor with the people during the reign of the Commonwealth, saw her out and asked her to formally join. She did right away. Through it all, she would wonder about how her little friend Tizo fared. While they were divided now by a great distance, he always remained in her heart. She cited her relationship with Jode Ariel as the single most important in her life. Jode Ariel would always provide her circumspect perspective and the wisdom of experience. Whenever she felt genuinely in doubt, which was not very often, she sought out the reader of the Nightwings. If there was anyone whom she trusted as much as the scribes, it was her. Faye always was devoted to her faith, but more so to her friends. Many people in the Saurian Union cited her gentle manner and unwavering conviction helped them brave the changing times with courage and with grace. After regaining her freedom, Pamitha Thane found herself in a difficult position. Having once betrayed her people, the High-Wing remnants, she knew she would not be welcome in her native home. She did not trust the Commonwealth either. Instead, she found her place among Wilfred's Sandalwood agents, who were busy doing their part to fulfill the plan. As it turned out, the plan was a success. Pamitha stood shoulder to shoulder with her fellow former exiles, and truly they were a sight to behold. A disturbing rumor later spread that at night the High-Wing Riders were slated to mount an assault, which for some reason never came to pass. Pamitha denied any knowledge or involvement. Afterwards, Pamitha played an active part in negotiating terms with the High-Wing remnants and a new nation that would become the Saurian Union. Her previous attempt at something of sort led to her exile. She must have felt some satisfaction to succeed this time around. Sometime later, Pamitha had an unexpected run-in with Rookie Greentail, whom she had spent a fair amount of time while traveling with the Nightwings. Under the new circumstances, it turned out the two had more to talk about and rather more in common. They would often be put to the test, which one was able to outdrink the other. It was unclear to which one of them prevailed in that contest in the end. One day, Pamitha received an invitation to return to the High-Wing remnants, where she was to be fully pardoned. She held out hope that she might see her blood sister, Tamitha, there fully know well Tamitha did not regain her freedom. Tamitha did learn of Pamitha's welcomed back by her people. However, she never responded to her blood sister's attempt to contact her. Pamitha, in turn, did not expect forgiveness from her at any point. Nonetheless, she kept on trying to reach out, just to ruffle her feathers a bit. Later, when asked, Pamitha admitted she felt as though she had no home to call her own. This was during an interview conducted amid an extensive trip abroad, where she had traveled thousands of leagues beyond the bounds of the Solarian Union. Pamitha continued to journey, thus, citing that it reminded her of when she was younger and could fly unfeathered. There is one more account which warrants mention. The Nightwings conducted rites under the guidance of a reader. Little is known of her. Somehow, some of the accounts of her begin to paint a picture. We know she was of common birth, always directionless and prone to misremembering at times. Thanks. The journey to the downside left her close to death. It was then the Nightwings found her. They brought her back from the brink. She showed them the path. She pressed onward with the others. She made a vow to help her friends be free. Thus did the cycle of rites commence its final turns. When the final rite arrived, the reader's freedom was at stake. That freedom she indeed achieved ere the morning's light. And from that point on, accounts of her diverge. It is said the voice which troubled her she never heard again. Some say she helped to form our Solarian Union. Though whether it is true, only she knows. Someday, perhaps the reader's own self shall emerge. Then it shall pierce the dark of night in all its brilliant glory. Until such time, and ever after, all of us give thanks.
Their journey began on a barren waste where the reader arrived, afraid and alone. When she arrived, the book of rites awakened the Nightwings and ignited the flame. They follow the stars, bound together, strands in our brain till the end. We sing of the last of the Nightwings who, having broken the cycle, shall live on in song. Headwind prevailed and strode the path that his heart laid before him. He has found his way home. Captain Joe Dariel, mother to many a foundling, she has found her way home. Rookie Greentail has proved his worth and returned to his family by the grace of the scribes. They follow the stars, bound together, strands in a braid till the end. The moon-touched girl hears the scribes in the world all around her. They have guided her home.
Wait, Logan Cunningham did the voice? He did the voice of the old man in Bastion. And the boyfriend in Transistor. I didn't know that was his voice. Oh, Darren Cobb was Yomindy? Wow. He's the singer of the song. The male one. Oh, he was Ignorus too.
Saw his plans turn to action. He remained till the end. The bog dweller Bertrude kept their foes at bay with her finest enchantments. She remained till the end. The reader at last made the night wings whole and ascended to freedom. She has found her way home. They follow the stars, bound together, strands in a braid till the end. They follow the stars, bound
Together.
strands in a braid till the end. Now at the end, as we bid farewell and return to the stars, we shall find our way home. We shall find our way home. We shall find our way
That was... I wasn't expecting that. But well, that was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed this game. There was a lot of swearing because I'm not very good at video game controls. And now it's full of books. And all our emblems are there. And I did eventually get my freedom too. The end. Yay! Oh, this was a good game. I really enjoyed it. What else could I say about it? I love the art. I love how everybody had their own personalities. Campaign mode unlocked. True night. Wait, what's this? True Nightwing mode. For others who finish the game, you will be favored by the stars themselves. Base difficulty is heightened. Can't reload or restart right. Slot market fully in stock. Defeats oh, it's just a higher standard was hard enough for me. Fuck this shit. Alright, so yeah, that was Pyre, and I absolutely can't wait to see what Supergiant does next. Like, Bastion was great, Transistor was great, Pyre was great, everything was great! Ah, it was such a good story! Oh, I love the setting. I'm never gonna probably see it again because Supergiant's like, we do one setting, it's one and done. Fuck. Well, anyways, thank you guys for joining me on Pyre. I had such a great time with this game. It threw me in like loops. It was awesome. I nearly loved every minute of it, other than sometimes getting frustrated with the rights. But you guys have an awesome day, and thank you for coming with me on this journey.